Let's get started. We're going to move into part two. Part one last week was getting your life together, do what matters. Do what matters, do what's valuable, do what's important. We talked about purposes for our lives, priorities. We talked about timing. When's the best time to work on our own schedules? And today we're moving from that, keying in on some of those ideas, and moving into part two, which is be the best version of you. So let me ask this question. We all have to ask and answer this question. Who's in control? For the first part of this session, we're going to talk about who's in control. I'm not actually going to answer that for you. You have to answer that for yourself. But you do want to make sure that the right person or the right people are in control, because if it's not, if you think it's not the right people, then we tend to make excuses. We can't do this because the wrong people have control. And so we want to get that control in the right. So we talk about opportunities. We talk about even things like prayers. And I want to keep repeating this because I started this last week, and I just don't want us to get the idea that what we're talking about is just being able to do more stuff, do more things. It's not about doing more things. In the end, really, it's about doing the right things. And why is it about doing the right things? Because as we talked about last session, because in the end, our life purpose starts off with knowing God and becoming like His Son, Jesus Christ. And so if we're doing the right things, doing more things doesn't necessarily, but if we're doing the right things, that helps us with those purposes of who we're becoming. Well, that brings us right into some verses that I want us to read together. Let me read them to you because I want to highlight some of these ideas. As we start to talk about who's in control, who's making decisions for our lives, certainly we start to ask questions that are similar to, well, what is God's will? What does God want me to do? Last time we talked about purposes and priorities, so I'm taking a step back and seeing a little bit bigger picture now of this question of, well, what does God want me to do? Revelation 3, verse 8 says, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door. He's talking to the church, I think, at Philadelphia. He says, I've set before you an open door which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Look here. Open door. Open door is not a commandment. Open door is not, here's the moral right and wrong. It's, here is an open door that represents opportunity, that represents something that you can do or something that you might not do. It represents opportunity because on the other side of that door, there's something. And sometimes we know what it is, and sometimes we don't know what it is. But God has set it before us. And in everyone's time and place, God is opening doors. And it says, no one is able to shut. And He also says, I know that you have but little power. God says, I know how much strength you have, but here's an opportunity for you. It tells us a little bit about all of God's expectations for us as we consider the opportunities that He sets before us. Do we have to know everything about how this decision is going to go? Do we have to know how the future is going to go? Do we have to be strong enough, good enough, smart enough? There's the open door. Galatians 6:10. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. And so there's a specific command to do good, but it conditions it with as we have opportunity. When do we have opportunity? Well, yeah, this is Paul's way of avoiding stuttering through, having give everyone the exact moment for when they're supposed to do good for people. He says, as we have opportunity. How do you know? You have to see that. You have to see the doors that God opens. He's telling us that we have the opportunities. We have to see the opportunities. And as such, we can take action on that. James 1, verse 3 and 4 takes us even a step farther back about doing the right things. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. testing of your faith, steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. This is maturity. That's a statement of maturity. And here James is saying all this stuff that's going on, the hardship that you're enduring, the testing of your faith, all these trials is about producing something in you, your maturity. He could have said, it is so that you can earn a living. It is so that you could tell people about Jesus. It is so that you can run church the right way. It is so that you can be, he says, so that you can be perfect and complete. This is just to reinforce the idea that it's not about doing more things and taking more orders and doing everything just perfect and making sure we get everything and all the right things done. It's not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. To what end? Why would we do the right things? John Ortberg says God's primary will for your life is not the achievements you accrue. It's the person you become. God's will for our lives. This is why when we study God's will, those studies are way more boring than we like to admit that they are. Because we usually go, God's will. Well, there's God's commands, and then there's the Christian principles, and then there's wisdom ideas, and then what decisions do I make? But what am I supposed to do for a spouse? What am I supposed to do for a school or a career or for the next step? And God says, I'll go with you. He says, I'll help you, but maybe it's not about getting everything perfect. Maybe it's about you becoming the right man or woman that he wants us to be, more and more like Jesus Christ. That book is right here, all the places to go. How will you know? Yeah, it kind of sounds like Dr. Seuss. And there's a video study in Right Now Media that y'all have access to on that same topic. But that's a good book. I recommend it because it's really fun in how it is encouraging that whatever decisions that we do make is more about what we become on the other side than whether the decision was absolutely right or wrong when it's not a moral issue. And so we do like to talk about, well, okay, God is putting the opportunities before us. He's opening the doors. We have to decide to go through them. We have to decide what it is we will do. Whatever's on the other side, we'll just have to keep rolling with it and with God as we get through. But what if you can't see the opportunities? And what if you can't see the opportunities to do or to become what is best? What if the opportunities come at a bad time? I mean, last week we were talking about scheduling and timing and getting the schedules worked out. And what if either we can't see the opportunities or the opportunities come at a bad time? And this is where I'm going to say this with all sincerity. I'm not dodging. I'm not punting on this. I mean it. This is when we pray. I can remember, I don't remember the dates, I can remember distinctly last fall, a week when I was looking at my week, and I had decided to pray specifically for some opportunities that God might put before me regarding just having some influence, getting out, influencing people or speaking with people outside of the church because I'm here so much. And I just needed some opportunities, and I looked at my week, and I didn't have them in my week. I didn't know it was a full week. I didn't know how it was going to happen, and yet I was praying for those opportunities. 2 times that week, the Lord interrupted me. 2 times that week, the Lord interrupted, and I had to come back to, well, God has opened a door. It wasn't on my calendar. I didn't have time for those things, and now what am I going to do? Now what am I going to do? Because I didn't see the opportunities in my week. I prayed for the opportunities. God brought them, but I was supposed to be doing other things. If we kept reading in James 1, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God. This is what we're talking about. When we do want the opportunities, when God does bring the opportunities, we might have to push something or not. I can't tell you. That's between you and God. God gives wisdom generously to all without reproach. It will be given to him, but let him ask in faith without doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. God's giving wisdom to us when we ask him for it. He's going to bring us opportunities that don't fit with our lives, and we have to figure out whether the thing that we planned doesn't fit or this opportunity doesn't fit. Remember, not every open door is a commandment. It's just an open door. But sometimes it's exactly what we wanted in order to become like Jesus, in order to follow God's ideals for us. He brings this open door, and God, give me wisdom to know what to push, because this day is full. And if I do this thing, if I take advantage of this opportunity, something gets pushed. Give me wisdom, God. Ephesians 2, verse 10, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. If I'm not sure what opportunities I should take, I should consider this. God designed me. I am God's workmanship. Now, God doesn't design anything in this world without a purpose. He didn't design anything in this world that wasn't good at something. Neither did he design you and me without purpose, that we weren't good at something. And so as I consider what God created me for, I know that it's in Christ Jesus for good works. I know that I'm specially made. I need to consider what it is that I love and what it is that I'm good at, because I'm going to glorify him joyfully in doing those things. And so I got to just consider my design. That doesn't mean that I have an excuse to not do the things that I don't want to do. It just means that as I consider the opportunities, the open doors that God brings to me, I'm going to be better at some things than others, because that's the way God designed me. Some other ideas here, by the way, as we do consider these opportunities, as we are praying about which opportunities to take that God brings our way, remember all along the way, wisdom calls to you at every opportunity. Proverbs 8 and 9. You see Lady Wisdom. She's personified as a prominent lady in the town, who is good at hospitality, who has set out the table of the banquet, and who has made everything right. Everything is ready, and she's calling to you and to me to listen to her. This is Lady Wisdom. Listen to her. She's going to direct you in good and right ways to do what is best for you according to God's word, and that's every opportunity. Wisdom calls to us. And folly calls to us too. Just to make it easy on you, while Lady Wisdom is on one corner, Lady Folly is on another corner. She is also very appealing in the way that she has laid out her hospitality and her banquet, and she is calling kind of in the same way that Lady Wisdom is calling, except she's calling us to all sorts of naughtiness, bad deeds, wastes of time, the kinds of things that would derail us from our lives, from our purposes in our lives, from glorifying God. She calls to us too. She looks good too. They're both calling to us. Who do you listen to? You're going to listen to one of them. Who do you listen to? The one that you love. You'll always listen to the one that you love. And so just remember all along the way, we see opportunities. They're just opportunities. We still have to make a decision. That's the starting point for where we are. Kind of lines up with some of the biblical principles I laid out last time, and we want to remember that we always have a biblical wisdom starting point when trying to figure out how we should manage our lives. And so the rest of what we talk about can be good ideas from us, it can be good ideas from other people and writers and authors and even modern research, but we do have to remember that we start with God's Word. And so we talk about our opportunities. We talk about even praying to God to help us figure out what it is that we are supposed to do, and He will help us with that. And we move on. Where's your stress? Last week we had do the right things. We said what's important and when's a good time. Today we're talking about be the best version of you. And we asked, who's in control? I'm not sure if you answered that. I didn't answer it for you. It's a good question. Who's in control? And now, where's your stress? It's all good questions. Where's your stress? Stress does a lot of negative things to us. It's a very unhealthy thing. It often paralyzes us and keeps us from doing anything at all that we ought to do, or just kind of defaulting into maybe not the best things. And so, where's your stress? So we're going to talk now for a few moments about clarity and communication. I say clarity because it's a nicer word than clean up your clutter. So clear is a better word than declutter. So clear space, clear mind. Everyone's got a different personality. I'm convinced of what I'm about to talk about, and I understand that everyone does things a different way, and you don't answer to me. I'm just making some suggestions, but piles of stuff make the worst to-do lists. Just saying, piles of stuff make the worst to-do list, and isn't that what our piles of junk are? Just, I got to get to that. Oh, I need to get to that. I got to get to that too. And we have piles of junk in every corner of our lives, virtual or actual. There they are, just kind of staring at us, reminding us of things that we have to do. Just before tonight, I was looking at my notes again, and I scribbled some comments on this, just as some reminders of what I want to make sure that we get as a bottom line for what we're talking about. So these 4 areas: mail, email, counters and tables, and desktops. That if we can get control of those areas, in other words, if we can get those areas clear, we will have taken huge strides in getting our lives together, in controlling what's going on in it, and helping us to make good decisions. And in this part in particular, clearing a lot of stress out of our lives. If we can get on top of mail, email, counters and tables, and desktops, we'll be in pretty good shape. And I'm convinced that we feel better about ourselves, we feel better about our outlook. And I understand that some people are just, hey, I know where everything is, it's just in my... I'm not talking about knowing where everything is. I'm not accusing you of not being good at what you do, or I'm not even accusing you of being disorganized. None of that. I'm just saying I totally, firmly believe that if we can get these areas clear, we help ourselves. We help our own minds and hearts in the way that we will look at our days, our weeks, the way that we'll sleep, the way that we'll take care of our evenings, all of that. So let me talk about some clutter. First of all is mail. We still get mail, like actual mail in our mailboxes. So we go out to the mailbox, and on the way back from the mailbox, unless anyone has one that's actually attached to their house, okay, I think most of us don't anymore, but we go to the mailbox, and as we're walking back, we're sorting through the mail, right? And I'm not sure if the children do. There's not much they can do about it, but we do. We're sorting through it, okay? It wouldn't be the end of the world if we stopped, at the trash can in the garage, and made the first deposit right there, right? It wouldn't be the end of the world if some of that mail never even made it into the house, right? So we could just, all right, here's the first stop for that. Then what's left? Some things that we don't know what to do with, and then bills, okay? Why do I need to open bills? I mean, I might be curious, but last week I said time block sometime every week for what's important, and I've got a time on Monday afternoon. I'm doing my bills every Monday afternoon. I don't really need to rifle through the bills. Now, unless I'm going through some real financial hardships or issues, Financial Peace University on Monday nights, unless I'm going through some real issues, if I have a time every week that I'm paying bills, they're not due before that. They're not due before, even within 1 week, especially since most of them are paid online. So, they get paid pretty immediately. So, here's my junk, here's my bills. They go in the basket until, for me, Monday afternoon. And then here's some other stuff that I got to figure out what to do with. Do what you need to do with that, because there's more mail coming tomorrow. And that's all it is rather than the mail just piling up, just put it where it needs to go, and then there's, whatever it is you need to make a decision on, make a decision on it. Am I keeping it? Am I throwing it away? Do I need to file it? What do I need to do? The email is just a virtual same thing. But because it doesn't take up space on the counter, we're worse with email than with actual mail. So this is the illustration that I use. Say that we go out to our mailbox at the road. We open the door. We grab the stuff out of it. We look at some of it. We open some of it. Some of it we take with us. Some of it we throw out. We figure out all that's there. We know it's there. Okay. Then we put it back in the mailbox, close it up, and walk away. We would never do that with our actual mailbox. And yet, our email inboxes, that's exactly what we do with them. We look at some of it, we don't look at some of it, we throw some of it out, we just leave it there, and then the new mail just piles up on top of it. And what are we doing? We're leaving it in the inbox because that inbox has become a to-do list. It's become a task list of stuff that I'm supposed to do or remember, or, I don't know what to do with that. I don't want to delete it, so I want to keep it. So, hundreds, thousands of emails pile up in the inbox. And the problem with that is whenever I go to the inbox, I'm not sure if I'm remembering what I'm supposed to remember when I go there. So do I unread it, or how do I mark it? So the best thing to do with our email inboxes is zero them out. Get rid of everything in there. For me personally, email is a matter of I can either delete it right now, or I can do something about it right now, or I can archive it. Let me take that back. I can do something with it. I can delete it. I can schedule an activity. Some things are, that are junk right away. Some things, it's just for me to know. I read it. I don't want to delete it. I want to keep it. You can just archive it or put it in a folder that you like, and you can get out of your inbox. Other things are like, I need to do something with this, but it's going to take me 20 minutes to deal with this email. What did I talk about last week? Put it on the calendar, and then you can archive it, put it in a folder, whatever. As long as you've put it on your calendar to deal with it, you know where it is. You can always go back to it because you put it in whatever folder. You feel better about yourself when you clear out that inbox because then you know you're not missing anything. If you're like me, you've gone back to things in an inbox and realized after a year, I didn't want to forget about that, but I did, and now it's just junk. I can just delete it. So leaving it in the inbox didn't actually help us remember to do anything. So here's the way to clear out your inbox in, let's say, a short time. Anytime between 10 minutes and half a day, you can clear out your inbox no matter how many thousands are in it. Here's what you do. You ready? You deal with the stuff that you need to deal with right now. Deal with it. Get it out of the inbox. And then you check all. There's usually one, you check all. Archive it. Archive it all. Now you can say, but I like to put them in particular folders. That's why they're all still sitting in your inbox. All right? Archive it all because searches are easy. And if you know what you're supposed to do, going back and finding an email is easy. I just type your name in the search, and there it comes up. Whatever it is that we were talking about. As long as I know, as long as I've got it on my calendar, I'm supposed to deal with the right things at the right times. I don't have to see the email there to remind me. I've got a reminder because it's scheduled. There are other services to help. I like Unroll.me. It's a service that helps me. It basically is a filter. You can set up filters, but this is an easy one. It sees all of your subscription-based emails. And when you use that service, Unroll.me, you use that service, it basically looks at all your email. You got to, if that's okay with you, it looks at all your email that's subscription-based, and it asks you to choose. Do you want to unsubscribe from it? And it doesn't make you go through all these links and then click through, unsubscribe and the reasons for. Just do you want to unsubscribe? Do you want to keep it in your inbox, or do you want to do the roll-up for that service? That's what it is. And then every day, for me, it's in the afternoon, I get an email from Unroll.me, and it gives me a short summary of each of the emails that I don't want to unsubscribe from, but I don't want them trickling in all day long. I just want to see that they're there. I'm not going to read them, but I still want to hear from that company, that group, that person, whatever. I still want to see what they're talking about, but that's about it. And so it has reduced my emails in my inbox tremendously. So here's the idea. Stop checking your mail and your email. You don't run out to your mailbox 10 times a day. You run out one time or maybe twice if there's something that you're really looking for or you missed the mailman. But so stop checking with email and just process. You don't need to keep checking and checking and checking and checking. Just pick once a day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day if you're really active with email. For those who aren't very active in email, it would be a good idea to check once a day to see if there's anything there that we're missing. But anyway, that's for a little. I'll come back to the checking the email thing. But the idea with this is stop checking and just process. Just process it. You know what I mean by process? It's deal with it. Checking it is, I want to see what's there. Processing it is, I'm dealing with it. I'm doing whatever work I'm supposed to. I look at it, I delete it, I deal with it, I schedule a job, I archive it. This is basically the process by which I don't have to keep checking and checking and checking, and especially with emails, which usually aren't urgent. You can just check once, twice a day, and that way you can clear that as well. When we have clear inboxes, I am telling you, when we have clear inboxes and clear mail stacks, we feel good. We really feel good. It feels so great to know I'm not missing something. I didn't forget to do something. I'm not forgetting. Or like I put at the bottom, just make decisions. Piles of stuff, not only do they make the worst to-do lists, they usually represent things that I just don't want to make a decision about. Why is that mail still sitting there? Because I'm supposed to decide something to do with it. I'm either going to do something or not. And lots of times it's like, well, I want to, but you're not really going to. And so what we're just not making this. Stop checking, start processing, just make decisions, and you can clear these things out. Counters and tables, apply the same principles. Just apply the same principles. I'm just saying that, of all the places in our lives, the horizontal surfaces, we just stack up stuff that we don't want to make a decision about. And it just sits there, and it sits there, and it sits there. We can teach our kids. It takes us years to learn this stuff. It'll take them years to learn it too. Deal with the stuff. Don't let it pile up. Usually piles represent not stuff that we really love. They just usually represent decisions that we need to take care of, file the stuff, and get it off. And then finally, desktops. Desktops, both actual and virtual. Actual desktop is in an office or whatever room that you keep the desk. If you have one, it's the actual physical desk. Virtual represents the computer desktop, which is that screen in front of you, okay? And so some of you have a computer, whether it's PC or Mac or whatever, the screen, which is whatever home screen, whatever you're looking at when you boot up okay? It is so full of junk that when you open it up, you just want to walk away from it. So it's not inviting. It's just there's a bunch of things that you don't know what to do with. All right, it just represents bad organization, and you know it. So with desktops and both actual and virtual, here's the thing. I don't want to be accused of, Eric, this is just your personality. You like things clear. I had to learn this, and actually I'm pretty pleased with this. In the last couple of years, 3 years, I've learned this, and so I'm not saying be like me. I'm saying I feel so much better when I sit down to do some work that the only work that's looking back at me is what I want to do right now. Because I don't want to be in the middle of cruising on this project and then I look over here and then remember, oh, there's this thing I'm supposed to do. That's a distraction. That doesn't help me. That hurts me. That drags me down. I don't want to be looking at the PC and see so much stuff there that I'm supposed to be reminded of to do. I don't want to look at my inbox and see so much stuff there that I've got to just scroll through it every week, just randomly scrolling through. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to remember? That's not helping. That's dragging us down. That's hindering us from doing what we could be doing, which is loving our lives, enjoying what we're doing, and just doing what we're supposed to be doing at the moment without the distractions of all the other things that are begging for our attention. And that's what it is. Piles of stuff make the worst to-do lists, and that's what they are. They're just distractions of other things that you could or should be doing. And then you go to bed later and you're like, oh, did I remember this? Did I remember that? Did I remember the other thing? Because it's in a pile somewhere. I had piles on my desk that there were things in that stack for years. Just like your email inboxes and that kind of thing. Years. Okay, and I would go through it, and it was there so that it would remind me. And I would go through and I would see stuff that was so old, I had missed the opportunity to do anything with it. It was junk because I missed it. It didn't help me by sitting on the desk. And so I'm just saying it has helped me so much. I want you to share in that. So clear space, clear mind. Clear minds are happy. I'm telling you, clear minds are pretty happy, pretty healthy. We go to bed knowing I didn't miss something. And lots of us go to bed and our minds are racing anyway. We write stuff down. That's all fine, if ideas come to us. But we don't want to go through our day, end the work day, or end at the end of our day, and have the unfinished things in our heads. We want to know that we have a space for them. So clear space, clear mind. Any discussion on that? But the thing about electronic, whether it's email or our PCs or whatever, searches work. I don't have to be afraid of not being able to find stuff. Searches work. So we can put that stuff away. Communication. This is the most dangerous part of the night for me, because my fear is that I will start talking and you will think that I am rebuking you for how you talk to me. And I'm not. At least that's not really what I want it to be. The idea that I'm going for here is so much of our lives, after dealing with all this stuff, so much of our lives is communication with other people. Whether it's work, whether it's church or our friends, so much of it is just communication. All of our relationships are communication. And then so much of our jobs and activities and the different projects that we're responsible for, it all centers on communication in some way. So I'm not talking about standing here right now communicating with you. I'm talking about how we do these bursts of communication with other people. And these are particular, not problem areas, but some ways of communication. And I just want us to see them kind of in order. We could add things to them. This is what came to my mind is some areas that I wanted to discuss so that we can be courteous and effective in the ways that we communicate with others in a regular day-to-day, all-the-time basis. And sometimes we don't think about it, but maybe sometimes if we just thought about, before I start talking to this person, what am I asking of them and what am I asking of myself in this kind of communication? There's different ways to do this. And so I listed 4 there. Emails, messaging. Messaging is text messages, whatever your messaging system is on your phone. Any kind of instant messaging, whatever you use. A more popular one would be like the Facebook Messenger. So email, messaging, calls, telephone calls. Included in that would be like the FaceTime and all that. Or in person, like show up and talk with somebody. All of those are good. All of those are appropriate. And I'm not asking for anyone to not use any of those in talking with me, okay? So nobody's in trouble here. But for courteous and effective communication, we have to use all of these in the right ways. You do you. Okay? The next time, I'm so serious, the next time you think about communicating with me, please don't worry. So, am I going to do this the right way? Is he going to be bugged? No, but remember, you're doing 2 things when you communicate. You're communicating with the other person according to a method. You're also asking them to communicate with you according to a method. This also is an issue of stress. This also is an issue of anxiety and stress, because it is a way that we use our time, and it is a way that we deal with our schedules and interruptions and all that. And so here's the thing. As we move in this list from email to messaging to calls to in-person, I'm sure there's other ways in there. I just wanted to, and I'm just talking about just regular, daily, day-to-day kinds of communication with people. Every one of these, as we go from top to bottom, email, messaging, calls, in person, as we go from top to bottom, as we go down that list, they become more personal, which is good. They also become more urgent and more demanding as we go down. Likewise, when someone communicates with us that way or replies to us that way, same thing. Okay? So for instance, let me just go with this one. Emails. Okay? I hear this a lot now. Did you get the email? Oh, I don't email. Oh, I don't use email. Well, you gave me an email address. I know, but I don't look at it. You don't look at your email. Well, how would you like me to communicate with you? Well, you should text me. Okay, I'll text you. I'll try to remember to text you. There's some things that I can do that way. That's fine. What you just asked me to do is interrupt you whenever I want to ask you a question or get a hold of you or whatever. And so I would much rather email you, because email is something that you do once or twice or 3 times a day. I don't have to interrupt you if you do it the right way. Because email is a system by which the urgency is very, very low. If I communicate with you by email, I'm saying, get back to me within a day or so. I teach, and the school, I teach some undergrad, and the college says with an email message, the expected turnaround is 24 hours. That's fair. At least that's my prerogative, to using that. I don't push everything off for 24 hours, but I can get to it when I get to it in a relatively short amount of time, but it's not urgent. It's an email. I don't have to reply right away. The expectation is that it'll be seen within a day or so, and that it will be replied to. I email people because I don't want to interrupt them. So when you say, well, I don't email, because this is what's happened, by the way. Everyone has a messaging system, a communication system, and then they get the new one, and they forget everything that they used to use, and they use the new one. And then they get a new one, and they forget everything that they used to use, and use the new one. I'm saying use it all. That's fine, but use it appropriately. And so, like, email is great because you have that archive, and whatever email system you use gives you so much storage that you can delete stuff, but even if you're really bad at that and just archive stuff, you're not going to run out of space. You're fine on it. Whereas on a person's messaging system, like on a phone, text, eventually those like auto delete out of there, or other things, they interrupt. So an email is low urgency. I don't want to interrupt you. And think about that when you're communicating with other people. Now, for friendly communication, I get if you're saying I'm not emailing my friends, for just this thing that I just thought of. I get it, but everything has its different. Remember how personal it is? Different level of that, also different level of urgency. Then the messaging, text messaging, all right? Text, group text, message, thread, Sheol, get me out of it right now, okay? So, because every one of those, I have clicked off the notifications on group message, because every, text messages are, I'm going to interrupt you right now. That can be okay. If that's, I'm saying that can be okay. But that's something that we have to think about. When we do the text message, I'm interrupting. Now, if I get a hold of that person and they can't be interrupted right now, there's a high likelihood that text message never gets, any response or doesn't get the response that you need. But I don't want you to think that the only way that you can reach me is by using the most urgent method. Well, you can get a hold of me in lots of different ways. And so messaging is great for, I know this person, we have a personal relationship, I'm going to interrupt them, and they know why I'm going to interrupt them. Because usually text message is a pretty immediate kind of thing. And so that's what it's for. It's good for that use. Call, but messages are still asynchronous. They're kind of at the same time, but not exactly at the same time. I might reply within a few minutes, but if I don't reply for several minutes, everyone understands, oh, he's doing something, she's doing something. She can't reply, he can't get back to me right now. It might have to wait a little while. We get that, that's fair. Calls are different. Telephone calls, that's different because now I'm pretty much demanding that you stop what you're doing and that we synchronously communicate and have a conversation. Now, it's, a telephone call, I can still be doing some other things while talking on the phone, but I'm still talking on the phone, and that demands a high level of attention. And so, you ever schedule a call with somebody because you're like, I need this personal communication. It'll take me forever to text message or email with it. We need to talk. So I'm going to, all of this has good uses, all right? And then, of course, in person. In person is obviously the most personal, the clearest, best communication that we can get. This is how we communicate the most personal. This is how we communicate our tone of voice, our emotions. All of this is best in person. And yet, what's the risk of it? The pop in. Oh, I'll just pop in. Yes, you can pop in. Just understand. Popping in is a demand that somebody stop. Pop in is great when you're at a storefront and you need people to come in, all right? There's times when it's happened to you and you do it to other people, and it's okay when you have that relationship, but this pop-in is going to actually kill a half an hour for a 3-minute conversation. And so all of this is good. I'm saying use it all. Don't not use it, and don't worry about how you communicate with me, your pastor. We're not saying we're not saying don't talk to us. We're not saying that at all. We're just saying understand what we're doing when we use these different tools and these different methods of communication. Yeah, so with tone, with text messages, or emails, you don't know tone of voice. And even with people that we know and love, we don't get tone of voice. And I've had to tell myself and other friends and coworkers from time to time, or other people in ministry, they get that message and they're like, look at this. And you have to say, assume the very best intent. Assume the very best of intent. Assume the greatest tone of voice. Assume they're trying to do the very best, that they didn't want to interrupt, that they didn't want to call. Assume the very best intent. And it's so much healthier. Because, this is the other thing, by the way. Why are you checking messages and emails before bed? Don't do it. Stop it. Don't ever do it. Take the last hour before bed off. Don't do it, because nothing good comes of checking emails and messages the last hour before bed. But yeah, that tone of voice, it's huge. And it's like, now I need to wait before I respond. Because I might be replying nicely, but I might be totally misunderstanding it. And I've come back to a message before and reread it with a different mental tone. Have you? Yeah. You're like, oh, this is nicer than I thought. Why did I assume something bad from that person? Carrie. Yes, I know exactly. I use the winky face, you know. You knew I was just joking with you, even though it was true, you know. Yeah, so the emojis. So, wait a second, that's not chocolate ice cream. What is that? All right, so I thought it was a cupcake. All right, so other things on the communication. It's all good. Just we understand. And so we say this to be courteous and effective with other people, but also be mindful of what you're asking other people to do for you, in that if you have notification overload, it might be because people know the word has gotten out that you can't be communicated with unless it's by text message, which is the constant interruptions. If you're asking people to do that, they'll do that, but then you'll be like, all these notifications, all these interruptions. Well, yeah, you told people, I don't check my email. Well, okay, they don't want to interrupt me. Maybe. I'm just saying sometimes we do it to ourselves, and so we need to keep in mind these things, not just for other people, but for what we ask other people to do for us. Last week we recorded, and this week we are recording, and at some point we'll get this posted, and I'll let you know, but it'll be at ericpuff.com/life. Thanks, Rob, very much for helping with the recording. That's a lot of work for that. The next seminar coming up is called Making Meetings Not Stink. All right, I'm going with this theme of using titles that are trying to get some attention. So, Making Meetings Not Stink. All right, why church committee meetings stink and how to fix them. All right, now this is based on the assumption that we have to have meetings, and some of us are constantly in meetings, some of us not so much, but we have to have meetings. Meetings can be good and healthy. We know that they're necessary, but the feelings people leave meetings with, short-term and long-term, I believe, affect long-term leadership rates, volunteerism, and just how people connect with the opportunities that are placed before them. And sometimes it's not for the reasons that we think. And so my belief is that while we have very, very professional people in churches, even people who are used to professional meetings come to church meetings. I'm not talking about corporate business meetings. I'm talking about committees and ministry teams and boards. They come to and all rules are off. And we forget how to do these, and that we can probably, even for church meetings, put some things in place. I am not talking about Robert's Rules of Order. Just put some things in place. So that might not be the thing for you, but I want you to be aware of what the next offering for me will be coming in March, in a month, March 3 and March 10. It won't be in this room because there'll be kids in here singing, so we'll be in a different room.